Welcome to the Scholars Chair. In the Scholars Chair is Dr. Azizah al Hibri, founder of Karama, Muslim Lawyers for Human Rights. Dr. al Hibri is also a former professor at the University of Richmond School of Law. Our topic of discussion is family life from an Islamic perspective. There seems to be a real concern on all political levels about the integrity of the American family unit. And it seems to me that the research that I've done to getting ready for this program and for other programs, that there seems to be in the traditional family unit a decline. People waiting later to get married, people not thinking marriage is important at all. But either case, it has moved from 70% down to 41% is what the figures I saw this morning. And I was curious, do you see it that way? Do you believe that the decline is actually happening, and why?
I do see it that way, but I hate to say it's not only the United States. I now see it even in some Muslim countries, especially Arab countries. And I think it has a lot to do with how you see the future, among other things. I think this is one factor. Instability, sometimes, not always, depending on the people we're talking about. They might decide things are so unstable they don't want to marry. I know a lot of unmarried Muslim women who are wonderful, beautiful, etc. And that has, they're unmarried into older age, and that has never happened before in the Muslim world. But part of it is that when there was so much instability in the country and people migrated, the boys went out and the women stayed, and that caused the problem. In the United States, we have another situation. This one of it that everybody talks about it is that now everybody talks to their electronic equipment. Imagine that now Chat GPT is taking the place of conversations at the dinner table with Pop and Mom in the past. When I came to the United States, I came here in the mid 60s. And part of what I experienced is not the 60s, but through television, the 50s as well. And I could see how families were at that time, how close, how closely knit. The children, the mother, the father, they were all parts of putting together the family, advising, talking, living together, really living together, not under one roof, but living together, sharing experiences under this one roof. Mm-hmm. I don't see that now. And over the years, this kind of close relationship between parents and children and the children and their siblings slowly were weakened by its change in the ideology of the family, what freedom is about, schools playing a bigger role in the lives of the children than that of their parents. The people of my generation still thought that families should be closely knit, but not to the extent it was traditionally. But now today, there is no allegiance to that kind of a model. If it happens, it's because somebody wanted it to happen, but there is no allegiance as a society to the family as a closely knit, safe haven where you can take your problems and rely on people there to help you if you fall, to pick you up. Yeah. Part of the issue also that did not happen recently, I mean, we can blame it all on technology, But don't forget that in the 60s and 70s there was the sexual revolution. And there we were told you don't have to be married to have sex. And actually, you don't even have to have one partner. And actually, parents are really old fashioned. They'll never understand the kind of liberty that we're now talking about. And that created the schism between the parents and the children. And that only got exacerbated by the technology. But I think most importantly, it was the shift in ideology in the way you see what, we talked about, like, this is about women's liberation. Like, women are oppressed, let's liberate them. But what was the result of that liberation?
Yes.
I think it was more oppressive than it was before. Women were less protected.
You are in agreement with a lot of Muslim scholars that I have a great appreciation for. Your views are very similar. El Farouki is who I was reading to get ready for this interview. He is just one of my favorite scholars. But tell me about the fundamental principles in Islam that informs Muslims to establish their own life.
I think the fundamental principle in Islam is not fundamental for me only, but ought to be fundamental for every Muslim, because you cannot be Muslim without it. That's the definition of fundamental. And the one thing that you cannot be a Muslim without it is Tawheed. There is in Islam only one God. He is the one and only. He لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. He does not have children, and he was not born of some other entity, and nobody is equal to him. And it might be difficult for us to understand what kind of entity is the Muslim God, because we can only think of entities in terms of in human terms, and in terms of our world, which is a world of space and time. But God has his existence has no beginning and no end, and has always been, will always be, and always does not mean what it means to us. It goes way beyond that. So it is God's existence is superior to our understanding. But all that is expected for us is to know and to believe that He is the one and only. He is not one out of three, for example. We do not have Trinity in Islam. The one and only Tawheed, He created this whole universe. And He told us that had there been other gods, the world would have looked different, because they would be competing with each other in the creation, each wanting his own standard of creation. And by the way, it means that none of them will be omnipotent or able to do exactly everything they want to do, because they will be limited by the wills of the other. That is not how our God is. God says, kun, be, fayakun. It happens. And no one is like Him.
Yes. So El Tawheed
and Him is just a linguistic term.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed. The El Tawheed idea that you are putting forward, is it possible to understand it from the unity of the one God and the unity of humanity as well?
There is a very clear way of understanding what the unity of humanity means. Because God told us He created us all from the same nafs or soul. And as famously Muslims know, also he created us from male and female and made us into nations and tribes, so that we get to know each other. We have different tongues, different colors. All these are verses in
Yes.
the Quran that describe difference within unity, because God tells us that we all created from the same nafs, and the closest to God in the sight of God, the most honored in the sight of God, is the one who has the most what? Taqwa. That means color is not going to help you. It means money is not going to help you. It means gender is not going to help you. That means we're all sisters and brothers on this earth. And what is going to help us in the afterlife is how much we established God's will on earth. And what is God's will on earth? Justice. And justice is described as treating everybody the same way. Now, that's not to say that everybody is identical to everybody. We know that's not true. But there is a concept of substantial equality. And we have that substantial equality between me and somebody who is a physicist, who knows so much more than I do, or somebody who is much stronger than me physically, but you know what? I'm smarter than he is. Substantial equality is when it comes to basic rights and living together. And I will talk a little bit about it, I hope, when you ask me more questions. Living together on this ship called Earth, we treat each other with the same respect.
And I'm hoping that we'll learn that. And you know, it seems to me that when I look at the shape of the family unit, it seems to me that there's a lot of challenges within the unit itself, professional pressures and et cetera. But I want to find out what are the roles of men and women in the family unit itself for Muslims? What are
Are
the
the roles?
what are the roles? Yeah, what are the
There are
roles?
no roles, no defined roles, except that, first of all, mother and father should be really good parents.
Yeah.
Now, the mother is looked at with a little bit more deference because she has suffered, and the Quran talks about that, 9 months of pregnancy.
Mm.
And the hadith says, prophetic hadith, ummaka 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 thumma abak. Your mother, your mother, your mother, then your father. So the mother is viewed as contributing more to the health of the family, not just the physical health, but the mental health, the bringing up of the family than the husband. But that does not mean that the husband should not also take part into this.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Prophet took great enjoyment in caring for Hassan al Hussein, the children of his daughter. And there is a story where one of them was on his shoulder while he was praying, and he went down to for sajda, and he waited a long time until the child was ready for him to get up. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the mosque was surprised about that. So he was very sensitive to the children. And not only that, since we're talking about the Prophet, he also, I don't know how many people know, he also helped in cleaning the house. He also helped in milking the shat, or let's say goat. He did a lot of things around the house that men today think, oh, but that is a woman's role. Why is he doing it? Mm-hmm. Not to mention, since we're talking about the equality of humans, is that he used to go downtown And a slave woman, that is in Sirat Ibn Hisham, they would come to him and hold his hand and take him to the place where they need help, and he would help them carry things and look for ways in which make their lives a little bit better. So the prophet was not only worried about his family, but the community in which he lived as well. And so were the wives of the prophet.
Yes, this his humanity is extraordinary, and if you didn't know anything about the prophet other than that, it would be a person worth respecting, and so I appreciate that, my dear. Sister Azizah, do you know Dr. Ishmael El Farouki? Did you know him?
Of course I did.
Okay.
He was a wonderful person, and what happened to him broke my heart, but God wanted him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he took him. And we just have to fill as many gaps as we can of the great thinking that he left behind. And of course, I also was very saddened for the loss of his family.
Yes, yes.
Some members of his family, including his wife, who had done also great work on Islamic art and things like that.
Yes, I found his book to be quite stimulating. I don't think I would have been a Muslim in this environment, in the American environment. I don't think I don't. Allah knows best, but his book contributed a lot to my current thinking about the modern world, and besides you, of course, the Dr. El Farouki offers a Quranic verse that asserts the idea that Allah has made men and women equal in the religious responsibility. He says that, and I want to find out whether you agree. Uh, he points us to Surah 1697. Whoever works righteousness, and it says, Bismillah, whoever works righteousness, man and woman, have faith. Verily to him we give a new life, a life that is good and pure, and we will bestow on such their reward according to the best of their actions. That seems very equal to me, but what are your views?
Well, I think there are other verses in the Quran that might show equality in responsibility more, because for me, this shows more equality in rewards. That is, when you do a good deed, regardless what the good deed is, whether you're male or female, you will get the rewards. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to point out a very important verse to me, which shows real equality between male and female. And that is the one which says, men and women are each the wali of the other.
Mm.
Al-mu'minun, believers, believing men and believing women. Wal-mu'minat, ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. Now, the concept of wali is very important. And since you mentioned my interest in family law, I would say not only in family law, but in politics, the issue of who is a wali is very important, because it says basically who is in charge to protect, who is in charge to take care either of the family or the nation, or the community. And here, we usually say the men, of course, the head of state should be a man, although we know that historically there have been women heads of state. This verse says the believing women and the believing men are each other's wali. يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر. So the women are in charge also of being walis over men, ordering them to follow al-ma'ruf and stop from doing what is prohibited, just like the men do. That's equality in religious rights, which are also, to use Dr. Farouqi's words, a civil right. And And for me, that's really very important. Now, you can tell me, oh, but you're going a bit too far, because we know that the man is supposed to support the woman. The woman is not expected to support the man in Islam, and so on and so forth. And that's where we come to the notion of substantive equality. We know that the man cannot be pregnant, the woman can. And her being pregnant and delivering, and also nursing the child, will mean that for at least some time she's not going to be able to take care of herself. And the child is not her child, it's a family affair. So the husband has to kick in and help her go through that period, help them go through that period. And so, yes, there is equality, even if the physical functions might differ. And this is taken care of through Islamic laws, such as you married her, you support her. Yes. Now, if she has enough money or if she's working and she doesn't need your support, she can say so. But if she is, burdened by all the functions that a mom has to go through, and maybe not one child, maybe 2 or 3, then what do you think? That she should do all that and also have a child? Yeah. And by the way, I read recently, just to go back to your very first question, that a significant part of working women in the US have resigned their jobs and decided to go home and be mothers. And the reason for that, caring for babies, hiring people who do that caretaking has become so expensive. No. It no longer makes sense for her to go work, pay it for the caretaker, and be away from her children. Yes. So that explains and makes very clear that, if societies are not ordered on the basis of the best interest of the child or the family, then the result would be catastrophic. But Islam took care of that in very simple rules.
Wow. The interesting thing I find as we're talking about this is as I was coming up as a young student in my hometown, it seems like the responsibility of the family unit extended beyond the house, so to speak. It seems that I got spankings from my grandmother, my grandfather, my first grade teacher, the bus driver, everyone who came in contact with me thought it their responsibility to keep me in the straight row. And I think and most of it was the result that they knew my family and my mother and father, and they kind of supported their value system. And if they saw me in a place where I did not belong, they would simply redirect. And I'm only telling you that story because of the whole idea that I have in my imagination of El Tawheed, the oneness of humanity.
Well, let me describe your idea from the other side in a different way. If you examine the systems of colonialism around the world, and or slavery, the way to control the population is to break down the family, so that there is not that support that you got from your family. And the children will be lost, the parents will be lost. Everybody is going through an empty circle because emotionally they're drained. And when the family falls apart, the nation or the ummah falls apart. Because what makes for a healthy ummah or nation? Healthy families. And look, in every situation, there has been this kind of, colonization, etc. The attack was on the family in many ways. Attack on the women, raping the women, attack on the men, destroying their liberty, destroying their self-esteem in front of their children, so that how could you listen to someone or consider him to be wise when he is being tortured in front of your eyes and he is unable to defend himself? He's helpless. So I think part of preserving one's liberty in an ummah is to preserve the family structure.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I think that the Al-Fawqi would agree with you. He goes on to talk about El Tawheed as you just did. He says that there can be no El Tawheed without family, and I think that, yes, I think the breaking down of our God consciousness has been a part of destroying the family unit as well. And yes, if you don't have hope, you can lose a great deal of the integrity of the family unit. I would you agree with that? Or no?
The other point is that if you lose the integrity of the family and you lose the directions and the ethics of your family, what are you left with? The ethics of the colonizer, who is trying to tell you, you are not as good as I am, and here's what I believe in, and you have to strive very hard to be like me, but you'll never be like me. So, for example, if if your colonizer is a capitalist, then you will devote your life to making a lot of money, but you don't know how to make a lot of money because guess what? You didn't have money to go to school, etc. And the ethics system has fallen apart. What does that mean about how you're going to behave? It's very important that the ethics of your family is transferred from generation to generation. And in our case, our ethics is Islamic ethics, which I'm proud of, and we can talk about it,
Yes.
because it is very respectful of all of humanity.
Yes.
And it makes the human being realize that he can achieve whatever he wants if God gave him the will and the gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think yes, moral ethics is definitely a part of it. I quite agree. I wanted to find out from you your views on, and I think you've talked about this publicly before. Are women required to exclusively stay at home or pursue a professional life in public? I want to find out what your views were on that these days.
Women have the option.
Yeah.
If they want to stay at home,
Please.
if they want to have a lot of kids, I don't think you should have a lot of kids, and then say, yeah, and I also want to work. I'll have somebody else take care of them. Because at least I'm talking about the U.S. In the U.S., you don't know who's taking care of your kids. In the Muslim world of old, if you went out to do something, to work, you have your mom,
Yeah.
you have your aunt, you have a lot of loving people around you, and the children would not suffer like they might here, because here you're hiring somebody to take care of them, and they might not care about them, but they will do what they're supposed to do, and that's and you pay them for that.
Yeah.
That's a whole different idea. So, as far as I can see, and looking at the wives of the Prophet, there are wives who actually sold some of their products and donated them for charity. Okay? So they were doing things. They were not sitting there and saying, I'm the wife of the Prophet. See how lucky I am. They were doing things.